Hey there, Nell Stokes here, sharing another memory on my 80 and Up YouTube channel. If you listened to my introduction, you heard that my first memory of myself as a person was at 21 months of age. Okay, here's that story. Of course, some of what I'm sharing was told to me by others. What I heard is that my parents were not very happy with me because I was going on 2 years old and wasn't walking yet. So they hatched a plan and set in motion something that would shock me. So I'd be walking by the time I was 2 years old, like all the other children. They said I was lazy and needed a boost. So they got a person in the neighborhood to go to the other end of the street, put on a white sheet over their body, and walk back in a distorted manner to scare me into walking. I was told it was a very nice and relatively warm evening around dusk on Halloween, October 31st, 1940. We all sat out in the front yard as we usually do after dinner. They said my little rocking chair was placed in a position where I could see up the street through our chicken wire fence. It was my mother, one of my aunts, and a neighbor. They were laughing and talking and enjoying each other's company sitting in the yard with me. My dad was in the backyard working on something. He wasn't paying attention to the women sitting in the front yard. What I remember, though, is that I could talk a little and I was potty trained, but I couldn't walk yet. I was sitting there rocking in my chair when I looked up and saw something coming. It was moving in a funny way, and it looked like a white blob walking. It moved slowly and was wobbling back and forth. I kept watching as it got closer and closer. My heart started to beat really fast. As it got much closer, I screamed to the top of my lungs, jumped out of my rocking chair, and ran to the backyard and jumped into my daddy's arms. He scooped me up, held me close, and assured me I was safe. My body was shaking, I was crying, and oh, so scared. That was the ultimate traumatic experience of my life. Even now, I go through a bout of fear and anxiety because of that day so long ago. That experience comes back to haunt me around the end of September each year and lasts for several weeks. I've had nightmares about it for years, and I experienced the actual trauma on some occasions. It made such an impact on my young life, and it still affects me at 80 and up. The lesson for that story is that children are very vulnerable. They are people too, just a smaller version, and we need to be very careful about what happens in their presence at all times, especially at a young age. However cruel, their plan worked. Family members laughed about it for years to come at my expense. Great, I was finally walking. And by the time I actually turned 2 years old, I had chores to do. The hydrant where we got our water was about a half a block from our house. I was given the task, along with my sister, who was 6 years older than I, to carry water to fill the wash tub so my mother could do laundry. I had a 1 gallon pail, and my sister had a 5 gallon pail. My mother took in laundry as a way to earn a living. My dad worked as a short order cook for the L&N Railroad and was away from home for 5 days a week and was home on weekends. My sister and I had to fill the 3 tubs and a boiling pot with water every day so the laundry could be done. I carried my 1 gallon pail, and we took as many trips as necessary to fill those tubs every day but Sunday. When I started to help my sister, she was carrying 2 pails at a time. In a few weeks, I was doing the same, carrying 2 pails. I remember we used to have a walking water contest to see who could walk the fastest carrying 2 pails without spilling any water. I remember that being so much fun. As I got older, my chores grew. We had a fireplace, and my dad taught me how to bank the fire so it would burn all night, and in the morning I would add some kindling to start a blaze to warm the room. When we harvested vegetables from our gardens, I was taught how to shell lima beans, butter beans, black eyed peas, and snap green beans. I would also shuck corn. My favorite job was gathering eggs from the hen house. I would also help my mother with the wash, and I would sweep the house and the yard. We didn't have grass, just dirt, and my mother wanted the yard swept so that all the sweep marks faced in the same direction. Challenging work for a wee one, but we had to always stay busy because my mother said idleness is the devil's workshop. I scrubbed floors, made the bed, and fed the animals. I learned to do whatever needed to be done, and I did it well because that's what my mother demanded. When my parents came to the city of Montgomery, that's in Alabama, they bought some animals and their farming skills with them. My dad had a cow, a pig, a goat, some ducks, and lots of chickens, things we could eat. We grew plenty of vegetables, and my sister and I had to help plant and harvest the crops. My dad always shared his bounty with the neighbors. Unfortunately, he had to get rid of our animals when the city of Montgomery learned he had livestock in the city limits. Of course, my dad didn't know he wasn't supposed to have animals in the community where we lived. Our house was about 7 blocks from downtown Montgomery, but it sat back in an isolated area, and someone reported that he had livestock and he was given a deadline to get rid of them. I was about 4 years old by then, and as I think back on that time and what happened, it was so nice that the neighbors came together to help my dad slaughter the cattle and prepare them to be eaten. They cleaned and smoked the meat, cleaned the chitlins, wrapped it all up neatly, and shared it around the community to so many of our neighbors. Of course, we could keep the garden and a limited amount of chickens. I loved gathering chicken eggs. Sometimes I would watch for the very moment that an egg was about to fall from the hen and put my hand out to let it fall in my hand while it was still soft and mushy before the shell hardened. Ah, what a delightful experience. That's just a bit about my earliest remembrance of myself. As you know, when you're 80 and up, there's so much more. But let me share this tidbit that happened recently that tied up a loose end and gave me great joy. I took my car to the mechanic the other day because the Sunday before I had to have a jump to get the battery to start. As I drove to the garage, it occurred to me that the battery drained because I'd left the lights on for a long period of time. The mechanic checked the battery and other connections and told me everything was fine. My eyes filled with tears as I shared with him what I thought had happened. As he pulled out his phone, he gave me some encouraging words about forgetting things and how he also forgets things sometimes. Then he showed me a video of his young daughter. She was running as fast as she could, back and forth across the room, one way and then the other, one way and then the other, running, running, running. I watched her for a moment. Then I asked him, "How old is she?" He said 21 months old. I thought, wow, 21 months old? Just the age of my first memory of myself. What a blessing, I thought. God allowed me in a moment of sadness to see a real life picture of what I looked like running to the safety of my dad's arms at 21 months old. An amazing visual. As I dried my eyes and left, I thank God for his grace and for him allowing me to leave with a smile on my face and joy in my heart. Remember, yesterday is history. Tomorrow, it's a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. I'm glad you found my channel, and I ask that you subscribe and take this journey with me. Thank you for watching and listening to Someone 80 and Up.